What's up, people? How you doing? We got we got Blake. Everybody knows Blake, and we have Matt here. A lot of people know him as Family Man. You've been on a couple podcasts before. I think you've been on Faz, playing some Spider Tanks before. What else have you done on podcast wise?
Pretty much Faz.
Yeah. A lot of people that are going to listen to this know you already. I just want to kind of introduce you in the fact that you're working with Fortune Crypto as basically the guy that is the know-all for Gala. And it might be a little too encompassing of saying that you know it all, but just that you're the main person trying to parse all of the information that comes out of their Discords and, you know, the mouths that are feeding us information. And you are the person that's going to be most up to date with that. And so we kind of want to go and do a weekly, we're calling it, when this was Matt's idea as well, which I thought was great, is the Gala Gazette. And it's just going to be an update of everything that's going through. We're going to try and be as impartial as possible and not be too many fanboys or too many downers, and just be kind of straight in the middle and let everybody know what's going on.
Yeah, just kind of a weekly sense of updates. Just I like to scour all the channels, trying to find out, because sometimes it's amazing, but there's a lot of things that get slipped into the general chats that will go completely unnoticed. Like you'll go into Gold or other channels trying to find specific information about games, and they won't know anything about like the stuff that just like this one little line that Robotron dropped or whatever, you know, somebody said something. And so I see it as a real opportunity to benefit the community by just like sifting through that and kind of being the sponge and soaking it all up, and then filtering through it and presenting stuff that could actually be worth knowing.
Which is great, and I totally agree. And you know, good, bad, or indifferent, Gala is one of the largest Web3 gaming, you know, ecosystem that's out there. They have a couple games that are live, you know, a couple that are earning, and you know, more on the way. They have a lot of turmoil internally that we're going to briefly touch on today. But there's so much information, and I'm excited to kind of get as much as we can out, especially because we have the Gala Collective, which is right now it's in the testing in the water phase to see how people are interested in that. And we're going to do a full podcast on that as well. But that won't be today. Going into details and probably do an AMA with people so they can get questions to us. But today is just about updates. So I want to touch on first is the fact that everybody knows there's a lawsuit going on between Eric and Wright. Eric Schreimeyer and Wright Thurston. I don't even know how to say his last name. Anyways, benefactor on Discord, and then Wright Thurston. As you can tell, Family Man has a family in the background, but that's good. Love it.
That is definitely family.
So this is a lawsuit between Eric and between Wright, and there's a lot of mudslinging going on, and realistically not a lot of actual hard evidence that's been posted by either side, and we're just waiting to see what happens. I'm not a lawyer, and neither is Blake, nor is Matt, and so we're not here to touch on any of that. It's just kind of information that's there. So doesn't look good on Gala's part, as the infighting that's going on, but there's not much we can do about that yet. So as a community, as we get stronger, our voice may be able to be heard a little bit more down the road. But as of right now, that's all we're going to touch on. Maybe one of these days we'll get an actual lawyer and they can come in and tell us what it all means. But I'm not that. So.
No. And I think it's important to know your wheelhouse sometimes. I think that's something that's kind of forgotten in society nowadays is, hey, if you don't have the most information on something, you can kind of touch on what's publicly available and, generally known. But if you don't have the information to really dive into something, there's no point in
100%
causing more damage.
if social media was based on expertise, we wouldn't have as many platforms as we do.
No.
We in the military we called them barracks lawyers, right? They always knew exactly what you were supposed to say or do. You know, they were the guys, but they didn't know shit.
Yeah.
And that's what Twitter is too. 99% of them are their Twitter lawyers. They don't know anything. So.
100%.
But moving on from that, I'm gonna pass the baton over to Matt and let him kind of touch on some of the big, the big things that are going on in Gala. And then as we move through, we'll have questions. And if you kind of post some in the comments too, we can start talking about that.
It's probably fair to say that Mirandus is the most anticipated game that Gala's putting together right now, and they apparently they've dedicated themselves to once a month getting out and telling the whole community about what's been going on. You know, they Jason Hughes is, I don't know his exact role. He's in charge of a lot of stuff for the game. Obviously, he's under McCarthy, but he does so much with the community. He's just constantly giving as close to layman's terms as he can in regards to this like super technical stuff that they're doing. But even though he's engaging the community all the time, they decided that they really wanted to do something like an AMA. They've been calling it a fireside chat. But they did one last Wednesday, and it was like absolutely full of information. From the outset, Jason was discussing some of the technical improvements that they have, whether it's graphics or their back end stuff. They kind of hit everything, the AI improvements, all sorts of stuff. I'm not sure exactly how deep we want to go into any one specific thing. Did you see anything on the list that you wanted to like open up and really dig into, something that impressed you as something?
That's I'm going to leave that on to you. What you were excited about, and if we get people in the stream that ask questions, they might be. I'll pull the Discord up too. They might be asking questions in the Discord, but I do know the AI side. I've talked with McCarthy. Quite a bit about that, and AI is a huge one. They love the implementation of AI into different aspects of it. Honestly, we just had a conversation last week. There's a bunch of us together, and AI was the main topic, and how they utilize it in there seems to be pretty awesome, helping out, speed things up, and just kind of create more. Or I should say create more, but I guess create more creativity. That's kind of a weird way to say it. But,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's fun to see them grow and move and, keep making the game. It's a big game. So there's a lot to it.
Yeah. From the AI side, they specifically were talking about the way that their NPC characters are now responding to the environment differently, rather than taking each mob and coding it to do X at X trigger. They're actually, obviously it's not actually thinking at this point, but it is running through a series of prioritizations. So as someone approaches something, it almost the way they described it is that it's going to have this moment where it kind of decides what to do, almost like it hesitates, even like if you would come across some wildlife, if you were walking through the woods or something like that, that there's that moment, and then it either decides fight or flight. So something like a rabbit or a deer might just take off. They would bolt. A wolf might think twice. If it's hungry and it sees somebody in full armor, fully armed, it might think it might be better to run away, or it might attack. And actually, I think the wolves will probably attack all the time, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good point, because when you think about like a game overall, I the NPC interaction, I wouldn't say is necessarily the most important thing to like a game's function, but it's one of those things that that's like one of the primary things in like that kind of immersion category. I've most recently was playing some Starfield, the new Bethesda game, and it's when you have things that seem realistic and you're like, okay, well I can tell that's not just a random response generated through X, Y, and Z. It allows you to get in depth more with the game itself. And I think that's what causes people to, get addicted to the game, or, it really starts to take over because they can kind of feel as, okay, I feel like I really am a part of this world. It's not, I kind of get lost in the game and forget I'm playing a game. And that comes from kind of more little things like that. But I'm excited to see that that's actually something they're starting to prioritize and, really try to move forward with, because it makes a good game.
I'm gonna jump in real quick too, just so we kind of keep it on track as well. We're gonna try and keep it under 45 minutes. This might be a little longer than normal. Once we get onto a weekly schedule, we'll be able to kind of really hit the highlights. But so with that, I want to, just make sure that we're staying on topic if there are other, games that we want to touch on. So,
and there are. There's quite a bit. We have to wrap up Miranda's, or at least to get a little bit deeper into it. They did mention how some of the graphics work that they've done is going to really streamline the workload for the client side. So I think he said it cut the workload in half, the new stuff that they were working on. So so that means that someone doesn't have to go out and buy a multi-$1,000 gaming computer in order to be able to play Miranda. So that's going to be able to be used on less high-end equipment.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how you open the doors to players.
Yeah, for sure. Just a shout out real quick. JJ asked, how confident we are that Gala is going to be around. It's just a quick comment that he had. I'm assuming he heard from the beginning. And in all reality, I don't think Gala is going anywhere. They could look a lot different depending on how things play out. But they have too many assets that are built, too many games that are, with the platform. They have their L1, they have the Gala chain. Whether it looks the same in 12 months or 24 months from now is probably, it's left to be seen. But Gala, as what it is with everything that's there, I mean, it's going to be there. It may look different, but it'll be around. So,
I agree about that. There's just too much happening.
There's too much. There's too much money that's poured into it. There's games and people that's involved with it. I mean, look with the Gala Collective. Like, we're going to get that community together with it and really push, the community's agenda as hard as we can to really help out, making a great ecosystem. So, I fully believe it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be, behind the Gala Collective to start with. So that's the answer to that. All right.
Yeah, and kind of as a segue back to Miranda's, like this AMA came out in the midst of like the heat of the news, and I'm watching those guys up there on screen, and they are unfazed by it. They are super excited about what they're building, and I don't know. I'm not the wisest guy in the world, but I can usually tell when someone's being genuine about whether or not they like what they're up to, whether or not they're interested. And these guys, they're building a game they want to build. They're super excited about the progress they're seeing. And
head down and building. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. They're not being distracted by this other stuff. With us sitting back and kind of watching everything, it's a little bit easier for us to get sidelined. But they're still working. They're still building, and it's looking really good. One of the other really hot things they touched on was the dragon familiar that everybody was able to get. That was 2 years ago now that they released those Town Star skins, and if you got all 10 of the vouchers, you'd be able to assemble a dragon for Miranda's. It's already active in the Town Star game as a you can sell items with the dragon.
Right.
The two main things that they mentioned about it, one, that it is going to look nothing like what it looks like on the card. They said that is the Town Star rendering of the image. It's going to be a little bit more fearsome. And it's supposed to be sort of like a protector, like watchdog, bulldog on your shoulder kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just kind of intimidating. The other thing that they said, if you have multiple sets of 10, not each voucher, but if you have all 10 vouchers and you can merge them into the single one, but you have multiple copies of that, they might be merging that into an Uber dragon kind of thing. So
a dragon drives an Uber? That's weird.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's
fell on hard times.
Sorry, I'm an idiot.
Dude, I would pay for a dragon Uber, honestly. If I could, you'd be arriving in style at that point.
Yeah,
That'd be
100%.
fantastic. I'm in. Cool.
So, last detail from Mirandus, they're doing the shipwreck crate sale. It's not the date isn't announced yet on it, but if you go to the website, you can see what's in the shipwreck crates. There's a little bit of talk back and forth as to whether or not they're worth it. It's apparently the price point for the crates is 0.17 ETH, and if you look over the list, there's some great stuff in there that would, even at today's market values, is worth much more than that. But being able to get those, the odds are kind of tough. Even in the AMA, they came out and said that if you're just looking for the base end stuff, just go buy that on OpenSea. But if you want to take the chance and maybe score big, so this one's more for like the lottery players, people that really like to press their luck or take a chance.
It's a loot box. You're buying a loot box, basically. See what you can get in it.
Yeah. So just if you are interested in them, consider that. Don't expect that just because you paid for it, you're going to get your money's worth. But there is some really great stuff in there if you're interested in Mirandus.
Sweet.
There are a couple other things that came out. This is one of those ones, kind of like what I mentioned earlier. If you're not paying attention to the general chats in some of these games, you'll kind of like skip over your head. But Doug Sunny was engaging someone in the Walking Dead Empires chat, and they were concerned about the idea of an in-game gem system. They're like, they're not going to do that for this. And he's like, yeah, we have a database currency planned, and they wouldn't announce the name for it, but because we've heard about the idea of dead coin, and it was kind of being tossed about being an ERC20 token, and that's probably out the window now, but that seems like it'll be their database token that you can actually earn in-game and then make use of buying stuff somewhere, whether it's buying in-game or buying in stores or whatever, who knows.
Yeah. I mean, the database tokens for most games out there, I think, are better than not, because you need to have that in-game currency that is, utilized throughout that entire game itself, and you're not worried about having to buy into it. You can earn it in the game and that kind of stuff. So it's good to hear it. I remember the Gulliver's one where they showed the token.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, and then somebody got kind of upset during that.
Yeah, that definitely was a sideline there.
Yeah.
That derailed the conversation for a good 5-10 minutes.
Totally.
They also have an AMA coming up. Today's Monday, so Wednesday. It's the 13th.
Hey, for future stuff, this is just us talking as we move forward. Maybe sending or putting in those screenshots so Blake can post those up when we're talking about certain people that are there, or have those ready beforehand.
I showed it. I can throw it up again.
I missed it. Oh, you're already on it. See, my bad. That's why Blake's here. He's way better at things like that. Not Blake.
We got you.
Yeah, good.
We want to be cool, right? We want to have all the neat little perks and bells and whistles and stuff in the podcast. So
exactly,
we're thinking about it. So yeah, Walking Dead. They don't have an ETA for the launch, but it's like a heavy thune, not just like not like a.
Yeah, they seem super
years
close. They seem super close. After the last playtest, it was, you could tell it was, getting to a point where you feel like it really should be released. It's any day. So I'm excited for that one. I actually really enjoy those playtests on The Walking Dead. So that's a good one.
And they're adding the equivalent of dungeons. The whole guild format is going to be interesting to see how they deploy that. But which also takes me. We'll kind of jump out of order here, but the Echoes of Empire playtest that was a few weeks ago. They're also looking at a launch soon. October 3rd was their hard date that they set out there, and we're
look at those guys.
They're forging ahead. Like the stuff in their Discord server, the images that they're posting, the encouragement. They're constantly engaged with the community over there. If you're just in the Gala Discord server and you're not jumping into the Echoes of Empire server, Spider Tanks has its own server now.
Mm-hmm.
Drifter has its own server that if you want to catch up on Superior, that you can really find a lot of information, a lot of great conversation with the devs in the specialized servers. So I would recommend anyone that's really wanting to engage, go to the source. Don't just stick with, if they do have a server. There are some of the games that Gala has that are still just bound to the main Gala server. But if you really want to engage, go talk to the devs directly in their own server. But the Echoes playtest scheduled to launch October 3rd. There are some sales coming up. You and I, we're going to have to talk about Blueprint sales. We don't have to dive into that now, but there's supposed to be a Blueprint sale and perhaps a Node sale. I don't know.
Blueprint sale for what? Where
this
we
is
at?
Echoes of Empire.
Oh, Echoes. Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know. Have you? Does everyone know that you're the famous Prism of Creation guy? Are you?
I think most people know that.
Yeah, I think so too. That's why I was willing to say it.
Yeah, we own the only ancient that is in Echoes of Empire. We honestly bought it because I really was excited. I love that genre of game, the 4X games, and it, I was super stoked about it. So that's one of the reasons why we got into it. So I'm excited to see where they can go. I've liked their play tests, every single one that they've came out with. The problem for me with those games now is they take so much time that I know I'm going to have to stop playing a couple other games once that one goes live, because I'll probably be nose deep in that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited. I don't think we're going to have to engage it. It's definitely not as much as the last playtest. They increased the mining rate for that, and that was a lifestyle. You had to completely adapt. But going back to the way that the speeds that they had in the playtest, I think it'll be one of those things where you can kind of just send your ships and then jump away, because the way that they have the combat mechanics worked out, you're not going to be actively engaging people. Yeah. Either you sent a good enough defense with your ships, or you haven't. Either you sent them to a claim that has good defense, or you haven't. So if they beat you, then you're beaten, and that's just the way that it is. So you have a timer on how long they're going to be out mining, and I'm sure you can get lost in the game and do stuff all the time if you want to, but you don't have to. You don't have to. You can send those ships and then go do whatever else you want to do. More like the Spider Tanks drop pods than actually playing the game. Those are things that you have to take care of regularly. Click a button, get the job done. I think you could probably play it.
So what do we have? I know there's a few games that are actually thinking that they're going to have something live by the end of the year. The end of the year is fast approaching. We got less than 4 months away before the end of the year. I know Echoes of Empire, they've obviously hinted at it, like you said, October 3rd. That's right around the corner. The Walking Dead's kind of hinted a little bit at things. Who knows if they actually have an official one? I mean, what else do we have going on?
Well, the one I'm most excited about, which should be next, if I'm reading the chats right, is Eternal Paradox, which is also it's a cross between the RPG, the turn-based RPG that we're seeing with Champions Arena, and also an EPX, or I'm sorry, a 4X, right? So it's going to have it's going to have elements of both of those games, and those playtests, I definitely spent a lot of time in those. That was a
and I remember hearing something in the Discord where that they were ready. They were just waiting on Gala. That's always we see it with Spider Tanks all the time between, the Spider Tanks devs and the Gala devs. They keep pointing the fingers at each other like, well, we're waiting on you. Well, we're waiting on you. And realistically, it's like, I don't care. Just get it out.
Someone do it.
Come on, give me a game, man.
I think I'm starting to understand that. Maybe it's just me being a little bit too pie in the sky or a fanboy, but I've seen what's been going on with Townstar and the way that they have to really sequentially work this Gala chain integration. Like each item has to be right, and we're talking about if anything is wrong or if anything is vulnerable, it could be really damaging, not just to the game, but to people's bank accounts. You could wreck somebody if you don't have it right.
Well, we saw that with Champions Arena, right? I mean, the old minting hack that was going on, and they were minting legendaries and then selling them on OpenSea. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, those things are going to happen. Unfortunately, that's obviously a Gala thing. This has nothing to do with Champions Arena. That's Gala and their Gala chain and making sure that their shit's secure. So,
yeah. So I think what they're trying to do is step very carefully, test it repeatedly, and then say, okay, we're ready for a launch. I'm pretty sure they're doing that game by game. And obviously, like with something like Townstar that's already in play, Spider Tanks is already in play. Now Champions Arena's in play. Even Poker Go, or Poker Go Play, like that uses NFTs, not as intensely as some of these other games are going to. But if any of those games has something like they're exposed somewhere, they're going to have to address that while still trying to get these other games online.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what's going on. And so I don't see it as something nefarious, like they're just not doing any work. I see it like they're really making sure that they've at least got as much as they can anticipate taken care of. And then once they launch it, I mean, we can all sit here and I'm armchair quarterbacking all the time about like why didn't you see that was going to be a problem? And it's like, well, I maybe they didn't, and maybe I wouldn't have either. Who knows? But like, I like to think I would have.
Yeah, we all armchair quarterback this thing because that's what we're doing. We're sitting here, waiting, and I mean, it comes down to the fact that we're all excited for these games. Really want to play the game and own the assets and potentially earn some stuff that goes on top of it. And when it gets delayed or things happen, everybody's looking to point a finger somewhere. But it's not the easiest thing to implement. And I do I'm not trying to defend Gala too much, but they're just, I mean, their communication is the worst. They need to figure that thing out. But I mean, ultimately, it's we'll have to see where it goes, man. So.
Yeah, one of the other highlights last week was the head of the game. There's a lot of stuff that was in that we already touched on. He hit Miranda's. He talked about Champions Arena. Apparently, they're over 100,000 downloads on all the different platforms at this point, which is pretty cool.
There was some talk they were saying they kept calling it daily active users. They kept calling it that, and then they kind of revoked back to that. Oh, we have 100,000 downloads, and that's they don't have 100,000 daily active users. Let's just be clear.
No, but they do have a bunch. I mean, the game has gained some traction. It'll be interesting to see how they navigate these, like you said, this hack and some of the other economy things that people are upset about. The retention is important, obviously, because you can get people excited about a game, but you got to keep them.
Yeah, exactly.
So Poker Go Play, like we mentioned that's live now. They capped out their first week, and the sweepstakes drawings, they said they're supposed to happen about 7 to 10 days after. So we haven't seen the drawing from the first one yet. We haven't seen how that goes. We're waiting to see that. But the second week is live right now, and so if you're in there playing and you're getting a daily take, you're getting vouchers for the next one, which is it's a 200,000 Gala prize pool, and it's kind of bizarre the way that they've worked that out. I don't know if you want to should we dive into that?
Dive into it for sure.
So, like, they can't do poker as a gambling site. So what they've done is instead turned it into free-to-play poker, where they track how many chips you win throughout the day, and based on the number of chips you win, you get a certain number of vouchers. There's sweepstakes entries. You can win up to 10,000 entries per sweepstakes. You can also enter the sweepstakes by mailing in a 3x5 card if you're really savvy. Like, I think that's just keeping with sweepstakes like regulations.
Yeah, exactly. But, it's hilarious.
But you can win these entries just by playing poker. If you wanted to play poker and you're okay with free to play poker, it's fun. Like, you can get in there and do it, and then when the sweepstakes rolls, they have X number of prizes. Now many of the prizes, the bulk of them, you will win one Gala. But there are a bunch of entries in there for 2,000 Gala also. And so and it's not one prize per account either. Like any of your entries could win. So technically, all of your entries could win, and you could just read or none. So it is thrown back to a lottery, but it's not one that you had to pay for with anything other than your time playing the game. If you want to if you buy an NFT, you can they call them frames right now, and that'll allow you to start with more chips to work with, and so it's a bit easier to. I don't know. I've always found in poker that if your stack is big enough, you can. It's easier to make money if you start.
Yeah,
100%. Exactly. Yeah.
So there is that.
I used to play the online poker quite a bit back in the day, but I got out of it only because I like playing poker, but I like playing it in person. So
yeah, it's so much more fun that way.
It is. I'll have to dive into this a little bit more just so I can get a little more hands on. I do like poker. It's fun.
Poker's fun.
Yeah.
Well, one of the other things in the ahead of the game I saw that I was pretty excited about was, correct me if I'm wrong, but Legends Reborn is going to be continuing development again.
That's right. It's officially in-house for Gala now.
So my question here is, who's developing
it? TBA. As of right now, we just know that they were able to finally wade through the legal problems with it.
Yeah. So did they acquire the IP? Is that what they acquired?
That's my understanding.
Okay. So I was briefly watching it. I saw some people say, "Hey, this is they brought this in-house, which is great." That they didn't just drop the ball and let it go to the wayside, like we've seen with a couple other games. I'm just really curious to see how they position themselves with the development team, like hiring that out. Maybe that's something. Maybe that's something.
I remember
too.
Like Kung Fu Factory was in charge of that, but Kung Fu Factory was they were a dev company under a much bigger company. I can't recall who their parent company was, but it almost seemed like Kung Fu Factory was dissolved because all the guys from that, they ended up with they're on LinkedIn looking for jobs, so I wonder if Gala's just going to bring those guys back to keep building it. Like, that wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, they're the guys that were building it. Why not?
Yeah, they know it.
This was the announcement from a little over, I guess, almost 2 months ago now, when it first looked like it kicked to the wayside. So,
look at that. You posted a screenshot. Good job. Nice.
Kabams.
So that's actually just really encouraging, though. Like even if it's going to take a little bit of time to work out who's building it and actually getting it fully back online, this is a win in my mind. This is something that everyone was like fully depressed about. They're thinking it's another Fuzzles repeat, and even Fuzzles. I mean, the Gingerbread Man and there's a couple other guys that are like highly involved in that, and they're kind of doing the same thing with the IP as what we just saw here with Legends Reborn.
Because they got the IP, right?
I don't know if it's there yet. I
haven't been into their Discord. I was there from the beginning when they were trying to get. I didn't see any updates on whether
it seemed like it keeps stalling out. Everything is positive, but there's always just like one more step kind of thing. That's the vibe I was getting from it. But that hasn't stopped Gingerbread Man from just building. He's just doing it in anticipation that he'll be able to actually implement that. That's what's really cool about Web3. Like you can build out a platform and just plug the NFTs in later. It can be generic at first. You can get the skeletal framework in place, and then take these NFTs later that you finally are able to actually say are yours, and then broadcast it that way to the general public. Yep. And so that's another potential win that we're really hopeful for.
100%.
Nice.
So Legends Reborn's back in house. They also in ahead of the game talked about some of the last expedition stuff. They're apparently going to be. I think they're launching this week. Sometime this week they're supposed to launch the next playable. Like it's been playable for everybody that has a node since for months now. But now you can send those tokens that node owners got when they when they made their purchase. They can send the tokens to people, and that'll give token holders access now too. So they're opening up to a wider population. They've made advances in regards to the just the quality of the game. And they also posted the video. I don't know if you guys recall. They invited the esports team. Is it Bait or B8?
I don't know.
Because Gala doesn't know. But they were saying both of them. Whatever it is, I'm pretty sure they're. I think it's a Russian esports team, and they're really good. Like, but they apparently have presences in what is it, CS:GO.
Oh yeah, I see it now in the announcements. Yeah, CS:GO, Valorant, and Dota. And Dota is actually like the biggest game in the world, and it's a game I've know very little about, but it's like by far the most played game right now.
Yeah, so they have premier esports teams in that. They brought these guys in, and so they broke into the 3 different game teams, and then there was a 4th team that I think was like Gala side people or the dev side people, and they originally intended to run it as a live stream, and that just broke down because of connectivity. It was just a mess for them. So they went back and edited it. They were able to, in doing so, kind of get a little bit better perspective. They were able to like follow characters. It wasn't, I don't know. There were a lot of people that were commenting about the graphics. That's the thing that blew my mind. This is a game that's being built in UE5, and they're not done with it. And people are like beating it up because, it looks terrible right now. Well, it's because they're not done. They're like, the fact that it runs is what they're looking at right now. Like, how does it play? How does it feel? And what was really cool is that these teams knew that. They understood that. They got behind it, and they were just like, they were feeling out the weapons. That was really insightful. They were talking about the way the weapon felt. I'm like, this is a game. This is a video game, and then but there is a feel to it, and it's supposed to like intuitively do things a certain way, and they were able to really offer some perspective that way, and they all said they liked it. Well, for what that's worth, they all said they liked it, and they think it has good potential. So
awesome.
Once the art is fully in place and skinned out and everything is beautiful the way that UE5 can make it look, Last Expedition could be
those FPS, the FPS games. I mean, personally, that's my genre. That's what I play a lot, and it's all about the gameplay. Like, if your gameplay sucks, you can have the greatest graphics in the world. You're not going to keep players. But I will say this, on the opposite side of that, if you have amazing gameplay, but your graphics are just super basic, you'll get players, but they won't stick because you got to have that integration. But you can have great gameplay and mediocre graphics, and you can have a fantastic game.
Oh yeah.
That's my personal opinion on that side. So
there's a ton of games I'll play that, I'm like, graphically, this could be a lot better. But it's a stellar game, and it's immersive enough to that I don't really notice the graphics unless I kind of switch the script and go to like a single player game that's designed for graphics. And then I'm like, oh, okay, this is a gorgeous game. Like,
I mean, look at Apex. Apex, I think personally, is the best overall gameplay, like movement wise, the actual like utility of the way that the weapons work in there. Everything about it, I think, is the best first-person shooter out there. But the graphics, they're good. They're not great. They're just good. They're good.
That kind of reminded me of like GoldenEye level.
Your GoldenEye back in the day was legit. Graphics.
It certainly was. So they're about there with the graphics, but the gameplay is really it sticks. So
you can grenade launch yourself and kill the guy trying to kill you and piss him off. I mean, that was you just knew it. You're like, oh, sorry, bro, you're out.
I loved GoldenEye.
Dude, I loved it, man. I got into fights over that game.
Oh yeah. Well,
look, what else you got, real quick, so we can wrap? We're gonna be wrapping it up here. So, what's the last big thing you got?
they dove in a little bit with Gala Film. Apparently, there's a movie that they're onboarding that has Woody Harrelson in it. I guess touching on things, Dragon Strike is still out there, and Meow Match are still out there. Those are things that they're having their hiccups, their speed bumps, but people are playing those games, and I think they're going to use all these things, the mobile side and the games that need a more serious download. I think they're going to be able to like really. You were talking about data earlier. They're going to be able to pull all this data and finally start building things out in a way that you're not constantly running into the wall with whether it's the economics or the gameplay or whatever it is. I think they're going to be able to narrow it down and kind of find the right formula. And there's certain and as compared to like these other games that they just have one game, like they're getting it from a bunch of different angles, and I think that's what's really going to be the most promising for Gala. That they even with their other platforms, with music and film, they need to find the right formula, and it does adapt from game to game or application to application. But because they're so spread out, they have a lot of input, and so they could very well make this all work. I'm excited about it. We do hope that they come back and deal with the things that aren't quite working. Townstar has some issues.
They're talking about that recently too.
They've got a game plan. They've got a game plan for the nodes. They've got a game plan for the play and earn. Spider Tanks, great scrimmage, not that great of a game right now. That's my opinion here. Like if you actually just like the gameplay itself, fun, but the way that you engage with the entire like program, it needs a little bit more account-based progression, something like that. Just more engaging for the user, not just the scrimmage. But the scrimmage is a blast, and it doesn't. Some people hate Chicken Chaser, some people hate whatever, like that's fine. You're allowed to have your opinions there, but when it comes down to it, it's a 3v3 and it's fun, so if they can continue to make progress there, I see a future for that too. For as bleak as it might look right now.
Yeah, just don't look at the token price.
Really.
The price of Silk. Just again, I don't care what it is. We're in a bear market. If you're worried about a token price, you're in the wrong place. If you just want it to be high, right? Like the idea that the game itself it has to be good, and the economy has to have, just like you were saying, Matt, like there has to be more than just the scrimmage part of it. They have to implement more. And remember, it's a new game. So it's, when I say new, I mean, it's been around for a couple of years, but in reality, it's just been this year for the play to earn side. So you got to give it some time and realize that there's going to be ebbs and flows and ups and downs. So.
Well, a lot of people are upset because of the amount of money they put in on the front end. But if you're coming into it as like as a player and you're just renting the tank or like being a pilot for the tank, you can sit there and stack tokens all day long, and all you're doing it's just your time, and if you're having fun with your time and stacking tokens simultaneously, you don't really have any grounds to be upset. This is something that they're giving you for something that's entertaining you, and so that's. That's obviously the best way to go about it right now. You're going to earn more of those tokens if you bought something, and but then you have to wrestle with the price of it.
Well, I'm coming from the other end where I have and I spent a lot on ancient tanks, ancient maps, nodes, all the above of Spider Tanks because I was super stoked about the game. I really like that game a lot. The game's super fun, but also the potential that it showed. Look, I have more into it than most people, so I get it. I understand both sides. But until they don't continue the development, I'm still going to be excited about what they're going to try and do. So the team behind it, I really like the team behind Spider Tanks.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, this is a good first one, guys. We're running up on our 45 minutes, so I want to make sure we keep it under that. We'll probably start to engage the community in the Discord a little bit more for questions as we approach it. I think we should try to either do it on a Monday or a Friday consistently. Maybe we'll do 2 this week. I don't know. And just continually provide information, content, and just kind of updates on what the Gala ecosystem's doing. So thanks, guys.
I think that's
Enjoy the
great.
rest of the week.
Thanks, everyone.